Hello and welcome to this week's edition of We Follow the Town. A twice-weekly show looking at all things. This week we have two fantastic guests for you, as well as regular Leigh Simon. We are joined by Zach Ward and Lincoln City's very own Jake Longworth. First of all, I'll come to you, Zach. Give me your thoughts on Cook's start at Ipswich. Do you reckon he's had the desirable start that the new manager would have wanted?
I think it's a tough one. I think we've probably learned in the two games that he's got quite a big job on his hands. I think people were quite optimistic when he came in, and we've got a favourable run towards the end of the season. But I think the last two performances probably show that he needs a transfer window to really get the best out of this team. If we might make the playoffs with the run that we've got, I'm not confident we'd win them. And I think maybe having an extra season in League One might benefit us if we do go up eventually.
So, Jake, I'll come to you now. How do you think Lincoln have done so far this season? Was the draw at Ipswich Town a fair result, or do you reckon you should have had more from the game?
Just on the game yesterday, I think a point probably was fair. Lincoln certainly were the better side, in my opinion, in the first half. Obviously, took the lead. A wonderful goal from Morgan Rogers. They were playing some nice stuff, moving the ball around nicely, kind of penning Ipswich in a little bit, and made it difficult for you to play out. And kind of first half, you had to kind of revert to kicking it quite long to Norwood, which obviously isn't to his strengths. And then second half, it was role reversal, really. You guys were well on top in terms of possession and playing lots of football in front of us. And I thought defensively we were doing okay. And then obviously there was that free kick conceded midway in their own half. And then it's a ball into the box. You win the first contact and the second contact. Sod's Law, former Lincoln City lad, knocking in the equaliser with his header. So I think a point was fair, and I think it was a good point for Lincoln. It'll be a really good point for Lincoln if we back it up with two wins. We've got two home games coming up Saturday, Tuesday. So we've got Rochdale at home on Saturday, who are obviously fighting for their lives at the bottom. So there's no easy game in this league, really. And then Tuesday we've got Gillingham at home, who obviously another physical side with Steve Evans. So that'll be another different test to obviously playing you guys. But going back to your first question, in terms of the season so far for Lincoln, it's been so much better than any of us expected, I think. Michael Appleton has done extremely well and used his contacts really, really well to bring in some top players from clubs above us, sorry. So the likes of Callum Morton, who I know has been injured for a lot of the season, but to get him and Alex Palmer on loan from West Brom are big hoops. To get Morgan Rogers in from Manchester City, who's obviously highly thought of, young 18-year-old, bags of talent, match winner. Great to get him in. And then obviously there's Brennan Johnson on loan from Forest as well. So there's plenty of pace and exciting players in that Lincoln team at the minute. And fingers crossed we can obviously, not have too many injuries, because I know we've had George Grant, who's out for quite a while now. He's been one of our star players. Joe Walsh at centre backs out for a long time, and then who else? Liam Bridcut, our club captain, has been out for a long spell. So hopefully he's back soon. And if they do come back, then hopefully, fingers crossed, we can squeeze into that top two. But it's going to be tight.
So we'll question you more on your role at Lincoln City later on. You're, of course, the marketing and communications manager there. But with your years at Lincoln, how magical has it been just to see their rise up the leagues, see their rise up in League One? Because, of course, the Cowleys left, Appleton took over, and Appleton has more or less, improved them, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
Yeah. I've been there since the National League year, so I experienced that mad cup run where you were obviously the unfortunate four guys who got beat in the last minute, and then we played Brighton at home and beat them, and they were flying. I think they were top of the Championship at the time too, and we were all hoping for a massive draw in the next round, and not being disrespectful to Burnley, but we wanted somebody like Manchester United or an Arsenal or someone with a huge stadium away from home, so that we could kind of benefit from some kind of TV money and some ticketing money. Because if you're away in the FA Cup, the money split 50-50 in revenue. So it would have been amazing if we'd have got someone huge. So Burnley, we weren't sure if they would sell out because it's little old Lincoln City, and we thought our cup run was probably over. and then somehow, for the first time in 103 years, I think it was, Ben, they were the first non-league team to knock out a Premier League side in over a century. So, and then we did get the draw against Arsenal, and that game against Arsenal was I was there. Obviously, there was 9,000 fans up at the Emirates, and it was just a great day out in London. Took over Covent Garden, and it was just one of those surreal memories that'll live with you forever. We actually had a really, really great opportunity to score against Arsenal after about half an hour. It was 0-0. Nathan Arnold at the time cut inside, and he tried to slot it into the far corner with his left foot, and Petr Cech's hand came out of nowhere and saved it. And then right on half time, I think it was Walcott who scored on 45th minute, made it 1-0. And then after that, the floodgates opened second half. They brought on Ozil, etc. And it was a hard watch at times. But I mean, that year was amazing. To win the league that year as well was no mean feat, because we'd been stuck in the National League for 7 years. I think prior to Dan and Nick coming in, the highest we'd finished was 13th in the National League. So for Dan and Nick to come in and for us to get promoted and go on that cup run was massive. And then stepping up into League Two, we came 5th or 6th, I think it was, in League Two in our first campaign, made the playoffs. We lost to Exeter in the playoffs, but also the club went to Wembley for the first time in its history, the new Wembley, and managed to win it was then the Checker Trade Trophy. So we won that. And then year after that, win League Two comfortably. And then we had a bit of a transitional period when the Cowleys left and they went to pastures new at Huddersfield. And to be fair to the Cowleys, I thought they did an exceptional job at Huddersfield, because they looked relegated when they went in. I think they'd won no games out of their opening 11 games, and people were saying they were off down. They kept them up. It was close, but they kept them up, and then they've not found themselves in management since. But we had a bit of a transitional period where Michael came in and he inherited a squad of players that maybe didn't suit his style. Michael's he's very methodical, kind of, play out from the back. He very much wants Lincoln to play football in the right way and, pass and move exciting players, get them on the ball, make things happen. And to be honest, this year has been an absolute joy to watch and to travel up and down the country and obviously watch games at LNER Stadium. It's been a fantastic watch this year, and they are without doubt one of the best teams in the division. And I'm just hopeful they can squeeze into that top two, but it'll be tough because there's teams like Sunderland who are steaming forward now, and Peterborough and Hull are still winning games, and then you can't rule out the likes of Doncaster and yourselves, and there's so many clubs up there that want to be in that top six, isn't there? And there's probably at the minute, I would say 10 that could finish in there.
So just one last question before we get on to Leigh. You spoke about this season being a hell of a ride for Lincoln. If you get promoted to the Championship, would that almost match the magical FA Cup run that you were on a couple of years ago?
I think it would, yeah. I think the fact 4 or 5 years ago we were in National League, and I think if you'd have told me then that we'd be in the Championship within 4 or 5 years, I'd have laughed at you and said, no chance, it's not going to happen. So I think it would equal it. Whether it would beat it, I don't know, because, I mean, to get to a quarterfinals of an FA Cup and play someone like Arsenal is incredible. But for Lincoln to get to the Championship, I think it would be an unbelievable achievement, and it would. We've seen what's happened with Wycombe this year, and they've struggled and maybe not invested as much as they could or should. I don't know, or maybe their style of football isn't suited to that level. But I'm hopeful that if we are lucky enough to get to the Championship, that Michael could use his contacts again to bring in the players to at least make us competitive and maybe even give us a chance of staying up, because I think for us the Championship is the holy grail at the minute. And then the trouble is, when you get to the Championship, you want to get to the Premier League, don't you? And clubs have done it. I mean, Bournemouth have done it, risen from League Two up to the Premier League. Huddersfield have done it in recent years as well. So it is possible. It's just it would just be amazing to see Lincoln in the Championship. Some of the clubs in that league now are absolutely huge. You're looking at Sheffield Wednesdays, who might even be coming down, and then you've got your Forest and your Derbys, and obviously you guys have been there recently up into the Premier League. And as a Wolves fan as well, I've seen us go up to the Premier League, down to League One, and then back up again. So, look, who knows? But I think the Championship will be one of our best achievements ever, because I can't remember the last time we played at that level, not for a long, long time anyway.
And now I'll come on to you, Leigh. I'm going to ask you the question that I just asked Jake. Mm-hmm. What did you think of the draw against Lincoln? Did you think it was the fair result for Ipswich, or did you think that maybe we deserved a bit more? Because in theory, I reckon Lincoln did, to be honest.
Well, to start with, I thought we were going to win the game, but I'll give credit to Lincoln City. That they played incredible football to start with. They were kind of battering us, especially the wingers and the fullbacks. They're just pushing onto our defence, especially with Chambers and Kenlock. They were just overlapping each other, and of course Rodgers with the stunning goal. We were looking to concede even more goals, but give credit to Ipswich. We did manage to come back with a probably a soft free kick, curled in with James Wilson again on the end of it, and then of course we could have lost it right at the end as well. But I'll take the point. I'm quite happy with what Paul Cook has been doing over the last week. He's only been in the job for a week, so we can't go on with miracles at the moment. But to start with, the Gillingham game was woeful, shall we say? He actually come out and said, "No, we were rubbish. We need to be better." And then, of course, going on to the Lincoln game, better. It was a better performance for us. But then, of course, we got a big game on Saturday against Plymouth.
And of course, to those of you who are watching live, you can get involved in the comments by asking those questions. And of course, if you stick around, there'll be a competition at the very end. But let's get on to the match review, because as most of you should know, Ipswich Town drew 1-1 with Lincoln City, but was actually a fairly even game. But the first question is, and I'll come to you for this, Jake. Paul Cook, new manager at Ipswich. This game was his first home game at our club. What do you think, from the opposition's point of view? What do you make of Paul Cook's appointment as Ipswich manager?
I think he's a really good fit. I think he did a great job at Wigan. He's done a good job in management so far. He's experienced. He plays football in the right way. And look, if I think we're being completely honest, Ipswich have probably got one of the strongest squads in the league. Certainly man for man, I'm sure their fans would expect to be, and you guys would expect to be up there or thereabouts come the end of the season. And for whatever reason, under Lambert, it's not worked. So if I was an Ipswich fan, and I know I'm not, but I'd be confident that Paul Cook could get you guys back to the Championship. I think he's got great experience, and like I said, I think he plays football in the right way, and he gets the most out of his players. So I think he's a good appointment.
And of course, Ipswich Town made 3 changes for the game against Lincoln, with Lynn Downs, Grian Edwards and Jack Lancaster coming into the side with Josh Harrop, Keenan Bennett and Troy Parrott. So Zach, in the starting 18, there wasn't a single player on loan. Do you reckon that was a conscious decision by Paul Cook, or do you reckon that he's simply picking out the side that is best for us at the moment?
It's a good question, isn't it? I mean, 6 is a lot of loanees to have. It means that you can't have them all in the squad anyway. Maybe he's got one eye on next season. I think Paul Cook knows that he can get us up if we attack this run of games that we've got. I think we've only got Portsmouth, who are above us in the league, to play, and they're sinking like a stone. I work in Southampton, and my good friend is a Portsmouth fan, and he gives me regular updates. And the fans have turned on Kenny Jackett. They've had some really awful results. Conceding 4 at Northampton was a dismal result for them. But in terms of that question around lone players in the squad, I think 15 games, 14 now to get up. I think he's just seeing who's the best available. There's a lot of games as well. I think Leigh sort of alluded to that. It's very hard to implement your own style and management style on players when game on a Tuesday, you probably don't train, or you train very lightly on a Wednesday. Then if you're going to Plymouth or you're going to Lincoln, you're travelling on the Friday potentially. So there's not much training time to get your ethos into the players. So I think he's probably also conceded that we've got 50 professionals. It's just far too big. And I think he's mentioned that he likes a smaller squad. When we got in the playoffs in 2015, the team picked itself. You knew what the team was going to be. When Leicester won the Premier League, I mean, even non-Leicester fans knew who was in the back four, who was in the midfield, and who was playing up front. So I think Paul Cook in the summer will definitely have a bit of a clear out and reduce that squad size.
So Leigh, have we already seen an inclination that Paul Cook already knows who his best 11 is? Because of course he changed the lineup last night slightly, but have we kind of seen his style of play being implemented onto the starting lineup? And do you reckon that he already has an idea of who he wants to start in our squad?
Well, it's a difficult one because no, he's only been in the job for a week, so he's got to pick from those 50 players. He's starting lineup, so he may have an idea already. He may want to think about bringing in new players for the coming summer because we've still got a lot of players out of contract coming to July time. So they're all playing for that badge, for that contract. I don't know if it's going to be 1, 2, or even 3 years. I don't know. So, but there are a few players already signed a good deal already. But I think he's looking probably for his backbone, the defence. The defence hasn't really changed as much. He's still got Holy, he's still got Chambers, he's still got NCO, he's still got Wolverton, really. Coming back is Wilson and Kenlock. I know you've got Stephen Ward on the bench, but Chambers, as I said before, last time out, with Chambers and Ward, they're probably playing for a contract. So I think Paul might have an idea on who he wants to play, definitely.
So Lincoln, of course, made 2 changes from the team that beat Crewe 3-0 at Sinsel back on Saturday, with TJ Iron and Tom Hopper coming into the starting lineup for Regan Poole and Callum Morton. Ex-Town loanee Tayo Eden started for the Imps. But first of all, how has Tayo Eden played for you? Has he been a great player for you? And yeah, basically, what do you make of him? Because of course he's been a fantastic player for you so far this season. So yeah,
he's been really, really good. So he's naturally a central midfielder. So he tends to screen the back four. But this season, for the majority of the season, I'd say 95% of the games he's been playing at left back. He's done a really stellar job out there. I think he'd be the first to admit that he prefers to play in the midfield because that's where he's kind of been brought up, and he was part of the England under-17 kind of World Cup winning squad, and I know he spent some time on loan at you as well, and I don't know how he did there, but I remember the commentator from last night saying that they quite liked him at Ipswich. So he's done phenomenally well for us. He's adapted really well to that left back role. He's been a part of one of the best defences in the league, and I know Lincoln in the summer strengthened in terms of they brought Cohen Bramwell in, who obviously played against you guys last night. Very different kind of player, very pacey, likes to get forward. But Tayo's been great. We've been really pleased with him. He's been one. If you're probably going to pick top 3 or 4 players this season, he'd probably be in there. So he's done really well for us.
And of course, here is a bit of news that some of you might not be aware of. Kieran Dyer was actually in the dugout last night next to Paul Cook, and he was there acting as a coach. First of all, Leigh, what do you make of Kieran Dyer will join Paul Cook's backroom staff on a permanent basis? Because, of course, he's the under-23s manager at the moment.
It all depends, really. With the Wigan manager, doesn't it? Is it Richardson?
Yeah, Liam Richardson, yeah. So
he was his former assistant manager. So is he going to be bringing him in? Maybe. I don't know. But I think on the first training session for Ipswich, I think that he had them all into one bundle and then just trying to get involved as much as possible, really. And because he's got a lot of players to get through. So he probably needs Kieran Dyer's help because he is from Suffolk, of course, and he's played for the club. But he's still the under-23s manager. So, but he's trying to learn his trade at Ipswich. So we'll see what happens with that.
So, Zach, is Kieran Dyer a future Ipswich manager, or do you reckon he has a future elsewhere?
Yeah, it's a good question. Why not? In the future, I think, when Lambert was under pressure, a lot of fans were clamouring for a Dyer and Terry Butcher partnership, but I just think it wasn't the right situation. I think that was a heart over head, thought about Dyer becoming manager. It's such a complex situation at our club at the moment with the financial pressure, potential takeover, fan unrest because we're underperforming. I just don't think it was the right time. But yeah, chances are I'll have to go elsewhere to, become a manager and, as Leigh say, learn his trade and cut his teeth. But I think, why not in the future? We've had, some George Burley's a great example, isn't it? Where he was a great player for us. He cut his teeth at Ayr and up in Scotland and at Colchester, and people of my age, that's the most success we've ever seen. Finishing 5th in the Premier League and being in Europe and playing some really great football. So yeah, I think in the future, but I think on this occasion he wasn't the right man to replace Lambert at this point in time.
So, of course, Town saw most of the ball in the opening minutes, but without finding their way through the Lincoln defence. And the Imps subsequently had a spell on top, but without being able to work a chance. So on 16, Cohen Bramall blazed a shot wide after Chambers had his header cleared. And of course, Lincoln City were the first team to score with that wonderful strike from Morgan Richards, which I think caught the Town defence totally off guard. So, Jake, is that what Rodgers is capable of? Because it was actually, sorry, I got it wrong there. It was Rodgers who scored the goal, the fantastic goal from about 20 yards out.
Yeah, so he's obviously joined on loan from Manchester City, highly thought of at the Etihad. He was originally at West Bromwich Albion in their youth setup there, and he impressed Manchester City. And it was reported that they signed him for £4 million as a 17-year-old. So they obviously thought quite highly of him to be throwing that sort of money about. And again, it's a case of Michael using his contacts really well, and the fact that I think it's a real compliment to Lincoln that these bigger clubs are trusting Michael and Lincoln City with looking after their players. And kind of, it's the way that Lincoln play. They just play in the right way. And, you know, going back to the fact that they play out from the back and they like to play expansive football on the floor and kind of almost at times refuse to kick it long. And sometimes that does kind of cause you some problems. I mean, there has been some errors this year that have led to goals from trying to play that way. But the only way you're going to get better is by keep practicing it. And it's just the philosophy of Michael Appleton. But going back to Morgan Rodgers, he's a match winner. He's very agile. He's got 2 great feet. He's big, he's rangy, he's quick. He's got all the attributes, I think, to become a real top player. Certainly, I'd be very, very surprised in the future if he doesn't get called up to the England squad and obviously develop a bit further. But he's 18 and look, who knows? He's got the world at his feet. But I think we saw a glimpse of him last night, obviously a cracking goal. But then at the end, he nearly scored the winning goal, bit of a step over, and then Toto Nsiala's left foot came out of nowhere, I think, and blocked it from going in. So look, Morgan Rodgers is a great talent, and as is Brennan Johnson on the other side on loan from Forest. He's only 19 as well, and he's a full Welsh international. So there's lots of talent there, and they are on loan. And I know Zach was talking about the amount of Ipswich players that are on loan from other clubs, but we're kind of the same, really. There's Alex Palmer in goal. There's obviously Brennan and Morgan that I've just alluded to, and there's other loanees in the squad as well. That Callum Morton from West Brom. So there's a few, but we've had Robbie Gotts on loan from Leeds. So they're kind of just players that have been sent to us to develop further, and they've done really well. So they're a huge reason why we're fighting for promotion, because I think they've added that real star quality and match winning ability to the squad.
So, Zach, Holy was, of course, static in the goal. He didn't move when the shot came in. And last week against Gillingham, he also did a similar thing where he didn't move for the goal and he simply conceded. Do you reckon Holy could have done more? Because, of course, the shot came out of nowhere, but some might argue that maybe he could have saved it if he put enough effort into trying to reach it. So, yeah.
It's a hell of a strike. Jake's right. It's a hell of a goal. And my brother actually texted me. Me, my brother, and my dad have had a season ticket for 20 years, so we're always talking about the games after the game. I don't think Holy would have got there, but I think you're right. You know, Gillingham, we let in 3. Holy was flat-footed for all of them. The goal last night was a heck of a strike, but he was a bit flat-footed. I mean, I'm not expecting him to save it, but it's always a bit encouraging when you see your goalie at least throw himself at it. Thomas has got his critics. I don't feel confident when he's coming for crosses, although I think the last couple of games has been a bit better. I think his distribution could be better. But I think a lot of the problem with Holy earlier in the season was Lambert was trying to get us to play a style of football which he is not comfortable with. Thomas Holy is not a goalkeeper who wants the ball at his feet for half an hour and playing out from the back. He wants to save shots and clear the ball. But yeah, in answer to your question, I think he could have dived for it, but I don't think he would have got there, in all honesty.
So Town struggled to make any headway forwardly, and basically Lincoln were on top for a majority of the first half. If this is this kind of proof that our squad isn't yet used to Cook's style of play, or we just trying to like get comfortable with the way he plays football, with his philosophy, and of course with we played a very similar formation that Paul Lambert would normally play, but yeah, like it's still a different style of play. So are the squad simply trying to get used to it?
I feel they are trying to get used to it because I still think they're trying to play that Paul Lambert way still, especially with Zach was saying about Holy just kicking up the pitch. It's like when Jake was saying about when Lincoln are trying to play that ball out from the goalkeeper. There was sometimes we were just trying to do too much, but I feel like we needed to do it better. But I feel that it's still kind of a Paul Lambert style, but then Paul Cook's trying to implement his plan. But it's only 2 games, so it will happen. We've got 14 games left, but it's still anyone's game, really, isn't it? So as Jake was saying with the Lincoln City promotion push, they've got a style. They've brought in their players. They're doing wonders for Lincoln. Third in the league, pushing up the second. So I feel that it will come, but it's just going to take time.
So Town, of course, huffed and puffed, and ultimately went in behind at half time with Lincoln scoring through Rodgers' amazing goal. Jake, do you reckon the first half was a fair result? Do you reckon you made the most of the game? Do you reckon you were the better team than us? And were you pleased with the first half?
Yeah, delighted, really. I think to Ipswich is a tough place to go. I think mentally as well, as Lincoln coming to Ipswich, obviously former Premier League club. I think psychologically to kind of get the ball down and play from the first whistle was a really important thing for the lads to do. They're a very confident group, and I do think that they had the better of the first half. Didn't create too many chances, but just moved the ball around quickly and caused Ipswich problems in their own final third. But then, like I said before, the second half was different, and for whatever reason, we kind of stood off a little bit. But look, it was a good point, I think, in the end.
So, of course, we have a former player. He used to play for you, James Wilson. He was at the back. Were you surprised with how well James Wilson played? Because in my opinion, he's probably been the best player we've had so far this season. Probably Paul Lambert's best ever signing.
Yeah, I mean, when he was at Lincoln, I think he was highly rated by the fans. And there were times where Danny Cowley, for whatever reason, didn't fancy him. Maybe he put in a few not average performances, should we say? I don't think the Lincoln fans were devastated to see him go, but some of them were quite disappointed because they didn't feel he'd be given a fair crack. But from my perspective, James Wilson's a player who can play out from the back. He's got the ability to be good on the ball. I think he's confident and assured in possession. And again, he likes to get the ball down at his feet because he'll pass it into his midfielders, or he'll pass it out to his fullbacks or whatever. He's a calming influence, I think, on your back line. Whereas maybe Toto Nsiala, without being unfair, he tends to. He's a defender, isn't he? He's what I would call like a blocker. Like Sean Raggett was the same for us. Obviously, the lad at Portsmouth now, he was a good defender, but Wilson was always better with the ball at his feet. And I think James Wilson's in that category as a good ball playing centre back. I'm not surprised to see him do well though, because I think he's played at this level before. He's played in the Championship, I believe, at Sheffield United as well. So he's got that experience. And what is he, 32 now, I think, around that age. So he's coming to the peak of his career, really. So it's not surprising to see him do well for you guys.
So, Zach, we are at half time on the match analysis. And we talked about James Wilson. And I just said that James Wilson is probably our player of the season so far and Paul Lambert's best ever signing. Probably quite a statement to make, but that's just my opinion. Do you agree with that? And do you reckon he's actually made our defence better?
I should say I'm so sorry for dropping off. I'll try turning my laptop on and off again next time. But no, I mean James Wilson, he's been really steady in the last couple of weeks. You know, Wolfenden and McGuinness got dropped from the squad completely after a run of games, but that did coincide with some fairly poor results. So he's definitely a contender for one of his better signings. I think if you look at the people Lambert has bought in, you could probably also say Norwood is up there. I think Nsiala and Wilson make a good partnership, and that's something else Paul Cook has talked about. He wants to see partnerships all across the pitch. You know, fullbacks linking up the wingers, a strike partnership, two centre halves that know each other inside out. And I think again, if you look at the most successful teams, there are partnerships all over the pitch. So look, as long as we're getting decent results, I think Wilson and Nsiala are sort of staking a claim. And I think the way that we'll play football under Cook will probably help that as well. I don't think they're two footballers who want the ball at their feet, you know, trying to play quarterback almost and spray passes and receive the ball 60, 70 times in a game. I just think they want to stop and defend, which is what they're there to do. And if they can sort of, you know, get things moving, then happy days.
And of course, the reason why we're talking about Wilson is because Town came up on top in the second half. We very much worked our way into the game. It actually came from a set piece where Wilson got to the end of a set piece and ultimately scored from a header. Leigh, what did you make of that goal? And do you reckon we deserve to grab the goal? Do you reckon it was a deserved goal on our behalf?
Well, you could say it's a bit of a harsh free kick to start with. For the free kick, we could have scored probably a bit further on before that. We were trying to get on top with on the game. So, but we got the goal. That's what we wanted, and we tried to push on with the substitutes coming on. So yeah, it was a good way of coming back. But yeah, it's just because we had a triple substitution on the 60th minute, just before about 12 minutes before James Wilson scored. So we needed to freshen up because people were getting tired. People have only just come back into the team, like Lancaster, like Downs as well. So it needed to freshen up, and it kind of worked. The set play work. I think they have been working on the set pieces in training anyway. I think Matt Gill has been working on them. I know they can't really do much training at the moment because of the Saturday, Tuesday for the last 7-8 weeks now. So, and there's still more to come. So, yeah, it's going to be quite difficult to get all the training into one level. But give Ipswich credit, we got back into the game.
And of course, the second half was again fairly even, very much like the first half. Although an Nsiala error almost cost Ipswich a goal. On 83, Brennan Johnson seized on an Nsiala error and took the ball to the left of the area, but Holy did well to block at an angle. Zach, we've seen quite a few Nsiala errors this season. Was he to blame for that, or was it simply one of those things that happens in football?
I actually think the ball from Judge was insanity. Judge played a first-time ball. We hooked it 25 yards up in the air to Nsiala, and actually Nsiala was under a bit of pressure, so he miscontrolled it, yes, but I thought the pass into him was just crazy at that stage of the game. He's actually had a decent run of games, Nsiala, to be fair to him. You know, he had that spell and actually the Lincoln away game where he conceded a penalty. He had a little run of making mistakes and giving penalties away. But to be fair to him, he is a stopper and he's doing a good job at the moment. But no, I think in that instance you talk about, I think Judge, I would have been more annoyed at, I think.
So, Jake, did you think that Brennan Johnson should have scored from that? Because, of course, he could have, but it was Holy, to his credit, to actually went down to block the angle. I don't really think there was anything Brennan could have done because Holy did so well to actually save that. So, do you reckon it was simply good goalkeeping, or do you reckon it was simply one of those chances that every player misses, if that makes sense?
He anticipated the mistake, I think, and Nsiala was still quite hot on his heels. And I think he Brennan's first touch, I think it was quite unlucky for him because it took him a bit wider of goal, which narrowed the angle a little bit. But again, it's on his weaker left foot, and it's not a glaring miss, is it? I think if he hits the target, it's a good attempt, and he did, and Holy got his angles right and stopped it. So I think it was a good chance, but it wasn't a glaring error. So for me, Brennan, I think, did all he could in that situation.
So let's quickly go slightly off topic, because Brennan Johnson has, of course, been one of the shining players at your club, and Nottingham Forest are probably very much missing him because he is a player who they almost need. Has Brennan Johnson almost summed up your season as a player? Has he very much been a bright spark on the wing?
Yeah, he's been an extremely bright spark for us this year. I think I can't remember how many goals he's got, but it must be approaching 10 now, and equally around 10 assists as well. So similar to Morgan Rogers, I know we spoke about him earlier in the show, but Brennan's a match winner as well. He's got devastating pace. He's a defender's nightmare. When somebody that quick is running at you, can go left or right, drop the shoulder. Just an excellent player, and I think he's another player who's got the talent and ability to go up to the top. I know he's playing regularly for Wales now and getting called up for their first team. He's only 19. I was very surprised that we managed to keep him in January. I thought Forest were sort of in and around that relegation zone, weren't they? And I know they're not completely out of it, but they have picked up since. But Brennan Johnson's been fantastic for us this year, and he's one of the reasons why we've done so well this season.
So 4 minutes of added time were added on, and Norwood was replaced by Caden Jackson. Now, it's interesting with Jackson because, of course, he was frozen out of the squad by Paul Lambert. Paul Lambert almost had a falling out with him, I think. Zach, do you reckon that Caden Jackson has a future at Ipswich Town? Because he wanted to go to Huddersfield. The move didn't materialise on time. So is he going to be a consistent face at Town up front, or is he very much going to be a bench option from now on?
I think Jackson is potentially a contender for someone who'll get shipped out in the summer. Last season, when Jackson and Norwood played together, I think that was our most potent partnership, and that's where we started scoring goals. But Paul Cook's quite well known for playing a 4-2-3-1. So it depends on really if he sees Jackson as the man who can lead the line. I think Jackson's a decent player at League One level. He's got pace, and he gives us something a little bit different compared to Norwood and to Hawkins and some of the other players we have. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he moves on in the summer. I think he's got a fresh start with a new manager, which he's probably happy about. But I think as long as Norwood's fit, Norwood will be leading the line. So it'll be hard for him to get into the team, I think.
So, Leigh, do you reckon we can make a profit from Jackson in this summer? Because, of course, he's been one of our best players, in my opinion. Yeah. We're talking about last season, not this season. Yeah. And, of course, he's by a few Premier League clubs, Huddersfield, Bournemouth. So do you reckon we can make potentially a good profit from him?
Well, I like Jackson to stay, really. I think he's one of our better players. Just because I know he had a fall up with Paul Lambert, but no, it's a clean slate. He's got 14 games to prove himself. So I'm glad he's back in the side. I know he's come on late. He only had like 2 minutes, I think, in the game. So he could have come on a little bit earlier. I don't know. But I'd rather have the two up front, really, to give Lincoln a bit more thinking time, because like Jake was saying, they like to play at the back. So why don't you try and press with two forwards? So you're pressing the goalkeeper, you're pressing your fullback. So, but I know they've got pace. So that's what I would have tried to do. I would actually try and cause Lincoln City more problems, if that's how I do it, Jake. Anyway, so I would keep Jackson, really, because he's probably one of our better players.
So Town drew the game, and in my opinion, a draw against third place Lincoln is a very credible result. Leigh, you are the statistician out of the group. Can you tell us some of the stats from the game? Because it was actually quite an even game, wasn't it?
Well, I wouldn't say it was a bit of an even game. It was basically so Ipswich Town, we only had 3 shots, had only 2 on target, which is it's not good for a home game anyway. And then Lincoln City, you had 10 shots, but only 2 on target. But you kind of pressed us a bit more, Jake, with the fullbacks and the wingers. I was quite impressed with them because early in the pod we were talking about the teamwork and the the groups. So I was quite impressed with them. But yes, but with the possession, we had more possession. We had 61%, and Lincoln had 39%. But over the period of the second half, we did try and come out trying to play the faster football. Of course, Lincoln have got that 1-0 advantage. Of course, playing away from home, they want to keep it. They want to have the 3 points. So we needed to build on that possession. So that's what we had to do. But of course, I'd say we take the 1-1 draw. But with the corners, we had only 4 corners, and Lincoln had 6. So it's kind of even. But no, I think a 1-1 result is probably the fairest result of the game.
So a statement from ITFC Tweedy, and of course we love your questions, keep them coming in. ITFC Tweedy said Chambers was underrated yesterday. What do you make of Chambers' performance, Zach? And do you reckon that Chambers has a future at Ipswich Town? Because he is, of course, our captain. He's been a very good captain, in my opinion. But some might argue that very much like Stephen Ward, he hasn't really got the legs in him anymore.
Yeah, I think I agree with ITFC Tweedy. I think Chambers had a good game yesterday. Chambers, to be fair to him, he got shifted out to right back for us under Mick, and he did a very good job there for us for a long time. I think you're right, really. His legs are gone. When he did play centre half in the season we came down, and last season he was getting done by balls over the top, which really should be bread and butter in League One. So I would keep Chambers around. I think he's done a huge amount for the club. He's a model professional. He's done some amazing things with having, academy players live with him, and I think he tries to get young players to do things the right way. But I think his playing days are probably numbered. If Kane Vincent-Young was fit, you have to say that he'd be playing every week in that position, and that would be his own position. And then, would he be getting in ahead of Wolfenden, Enciala, McGuinness, Wilson? I'm not sure at the moment. So I'd keep him around. I think let's get him in on the coaching staff. He's mentioned that he wants to be a manager one day. So keep him around. He's a good influence, model professional. He's done a great job. 10th in the all-time appearances now as well, which is a great achievement in this day and age of football, where footballers have so many clubs.
So, Jake, let's get on to Lincoln a minute, because your next 3 games, you are playing Rochdale, Gillingham and Sunderland. And in my opinion, these games are very much winnable games for Lincoln. Do you reckon these 3 games could potentially see you climb up the table?
Yeah, I think Michael and the players will be looking to certainly the next 2 home games, Rochdale, Gillingham, Saturday, Tuesday. I think Michael will be looking to pick up 6 points from those, and I think he'd probably be a little bit disappointed if we didn't. The strange bit for us is that away from home, our record this season has been phenomenal, but at home it's probably been like 8th or 9th best in the league. So yeah, I think 6 points would be amazing from the next 2, and then a really, really tough trip to Sunderland, who are banging form. Again, I'd probably go up there and take a point and snap your hand off. But I guess if you want to be in the top 2, you're probably going to have to go there and win, because they just keep winning. They've got Charlie Wyke, and who's literally, I think he scored his 21st goal of the season last night. Aidan McGeady, who's another good player who's got Premier League and Champions League experience, playing in League One. So Sunderland's squad is very, very, very strong, probably the strongest in the league. And I think they'll be in the top 2 come the end of the season. It's just who'll be up there with them.
So quickly, before we get on to the competition, I want to thank you two for sticking around. I just want to ask you a few questions, Jake, about your role at Lincoln City and, of course, the journey the club have been on. So how much have you, and this may be a rather cliched question, but how much have you loved your role at Lincoln City? How much of a community vibe is there at the club? Because in my opinion, Lincoln epitomizes the definition of a community club.
Yeah. So when I graduated from uni, I was desperate for a role in football. I actually went to Lincoln University, and I studied sport business management. So one of the things I wanted to do was get into football. It was about 6 years ago now that 5.5 years since I've been at Lincoln, and I originally went in the commercial department, and I was part of the team that would sell advertising boards, spaces in the match programs and hospitality on a match day, and kind of deal with that side of things. And I got quite a broad knowledge of how the business is run and how you can kind of raise money for clubs from businesses and that side of things. But my passion was always in marketing and media. So as soon as an opportunity came up at the club to become the marketing manager, I applied for the role, and that was what I did for a while. And then recently I've kind of took on media as well. So my day-to-day job it varies so much. So like one day it'll be, we've got a press conference with the manager and the players that I'm organising with local press. And then the next it'll be sending out an email marketing campaign for an offer on a shirt or I follow match pass or whatever. Kind of looking after two of my colleagues, Charlie and Tom, who are absolutely great, and they work in the media marketing team with me and doing the socials and traveling up and down the country, reporting on the matches. And it's been a whirlwind 5 years, and it's been great to see the club progress from a non-league club where we had a non-league infrastructure because we'd been there for so long. New chief exec came in, and Liam Scully, and new investors came along. Clive Nate's the chairman now, and the whole club's transformed from where it was 5 years ago. And hopefully one day we can get in the championship. But you're right, it's a very community orientated club. The club means so much to the people in Lincoln. I think it's always a weird one. I always see Premier League football is like watching football through a glass window. You can see it all, but you can't touch it. And I think for our level at League One, you can touch it. And I think it's great that we make our players accessible to the fans. And whether that's a virtual fans forum because of COVID-19, or we even had, doing so much community stuff. We had players phoning up our season ticket holders who are in the risk categories for COVID-19, checking up on their well-being. We had members of Foundation delivering shopping to those that felt it wasn't safe for them to go out to Tesco and do their shops. And we've kind of done so much in the community. We opened up our stadium during when the lockdown was beginning to ease, because fans hadn't been there for 6 months, and we opened it up as a kind of a place for fans to come and check out the surroundings. Just come in and have your lunch at the stadium, and just where you would sit on a match day, and various little bits like that cost us nothing but mean so much to the fans. And I think fan engagement is such a huge part of kind of keeping your fans in love with your club. I think it's a lot of clubs, and I wouldn't name any names or anything, but a lot of clubs take advantage of their fans, I think. And it's difficult because, like, if you go to Pizza Hut and you have a crap meal, you have a crap pizza, you've got no loyalty to Pizza Hut, you'll go to Zizzi's. But your football club's different, isn't it? Like, I can't just, as you know, I'm a Wolves fan. I can't just say, do you know what? Wolves have annoyed me today, so I'm going to go support West Bromwich Albion. Like, it doesn't happen. Like, it's a passion, isn't it, to love your club. And I just think it's great for us as a club to be able to give fans something back. And to be fair, like, the amount of fans that requested a refund for the 5 or 6 games that were curtailed at the end of last season, we had 80% of fans said, do you know what, keep the money. And that was a huge benefit to us as a club, because nobody knew what was happening with COVID. We didn't know if there was a rescue package coming. We were paying players wages, but there was no income. There was nothing, was there? So for the fans to kind of stick by us in that sense, it was amazing. And the iFollow figures now that our fans are getting, like last night we had 2,350 Lincoln households watch the game. And for us, like, you guys are obviously a much bigger club than Lincoln. You'll be getting better numbers than that. But I was doing a report on our iFollow revenue and how we're doing as a club. Lincoln are 6th in terms of away support in the division, averaging well above 2,000 match passes per game for away matches. And then at home games, we'd have 2,500 season ticket holders who have stuck by us and get an iFollow match pass code to watch the game. But on top of that, there's 1,200 to 1,500 people wanting to spend a match pass. So we were absolutely blown away by the support our fans have shown us. And I guess part of my role is building that relationship with the fans, providing them with good content on social media, just being fair to them, and they'll kind of respect that, and they will in turn go, do you know what? Lincoln City really care about me, so I'm going to do whatever I can to help the club survive. And our fans have been amazing, to be fair.
So just one final question before I get on to you, Zach. From a PR point of view, because of course you've been with the club since the National League, how has your role from a PR point of view changed from since you're in the National League and now in League One? Because of course the Sky Bet League One is like different from a PR perspective. Like there's more commercial stuff to almost look at, really. So am I right in saying that? And as I just said, different has your role kind of been?
It's a difficult one because I've only been involved in media and marketing since we've been in the league. So when we were in National League, it was kind of the commercial aspect of things and the hospitality side. But what I can say is that the huge difference is there's so many audits and tests and stuff you've got to pass when you get out of the National League, whether your floodlights are and your pitch and your stadium, and you've got various bits like how fast can you exit a stadium in a certain amount of time. Like, all the regs are completely they're just so different. So the club has to evolve. We've had to recruit more staff, but then your revenue you generate from your front of shirt sponsor or the amount of money you can charge for an executive box in hospitality, they all increase. So you've got the ability to then be able to match everything up. So just to give you a bit of perspective, when we were in National League, before we had that amazing cup run prior to that, we were averaging probably 2,500 to 3,000 fans in the ground, it was like I said, the highest we'd finished was 13th. We've been down there 6 years. It was quite dull at times. And I remember I was at university and somebody from Lincoln City came to talk to us about business and how what it's like at a club in non-league. And the guys came in and they basically said the club was struggling so much that they could barely even afford to change light bulbs. Like that, it was just so kind of dark, and the club was in a bad way. And Bob Dorian did an amazing job, the old chairman, to kind of turn the club around slightly. And Chris Moyses, who was manager at the time as well, has played a huge part in kind of helping us assemble a squad that was. And Danny Cowley came in and he built an unbelievable squad to get us out of the National League and do that. But the change that I've seen in the club is massive, because what we do on and off the pitch now is completely light years away from what we were doing 5 years ago. So I don't think there's been a club over the last 4 or 5 years that's grown more than Lincoln City in the Football League. To be on the cusp of the Championship is a great achievement for everybody involved. And from a PR perspective, the social media growth, the fact that we've now got, last year we had 6,500 season ticket holders. So you've kind of grown from a whole attendance of 3,000 to 6,500 of them are season ticket holders. And then you're averaging 9,500 in a 10,000 seater stadium. And the majority of the empty seats are from clubs who don't sell out their away allocation. And obviously when the likes of Ipswich come, you sell out the away end. So it's a nice full ground, bouncing atmosphere. So yeah, we've had instrumental growth, and it's been great to be a part of. It's great for the CV anyway, in terms of, I've been a part of this, and we've grown this much, and we started with 800 season ticket holders, and now we've got 6,500. So the growth has been mad. Not only just in that, shirt sales, everything, like the amount of women as well that are there involved with the club as well is fantastic. Like we're trying to grow our diverse fan base, get fans engaged, because if you catch them when they're young, they're with you for life. So that's the philosophy. And Danny Cowley always referred to, when he first came to the club, we have an AstroTurf next to the stadium, and they used to have like holiday soccer camps and things, for the kids to kind of train on. And it was full of Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, all the big clubs in the Champions League. And he said, right, what I want to do at this football club is I want them kids wearing Lincoln City shirts. Like I want it to be cool to support Lincoln City again, because at the time it wasn't. And he came in, transformed it, started the legacy. And then look, 3 years later, that AstroTurf full of Lincoln City kits, and it's just great. So look, who knows how far we can go. And I know there's plans to expand the stadium and see if we can get more fans in, but who knows what our roof is. But it's a good place to be at the minute. It's an exciting club to be at, and just hopefully, fingers crossed, we can can keep that momentum going. And if we don't go up this year, then I'm sure if Michael sticks around, we'll be able to have another promotion charge if he brings in some players again from like you said, that loan model is so important to us, and it helps us build a really strong team. So it's been a cracking 5 years, and hopefully the journey's not quite over just yet.
So just one last question, because in a minute, Zach, I want to ask you about our new potential owner. And I think this would be a perfect segue into it, because, of course, a good owner is imperative to a football club, is imperative to its success, and basically how quickly it goes up the leagues. And Lincoln are a great example of that. Lincoln have a fantastic owner. So how important has he been for Lincoln City? Has your owner kind of, I don't know, like been a new breath of for the club? Could this owner get you into the Championship?
Yeah, quite. I like Zach was saying earlier. Like, why not? Like, who knows? Like, he's an absolutely fantastic owner. Like, he puts the fans first, and he's not going to put millions and millions and millions and millions into the club. But what his investment has happened so far is it's just transformed us, and it's great. The club are so good with the money. You know, the amount of people that we had as season ticket holders for this season, we've then given them the option to become a shareholder. So, like, if you keep your money in the club, they can be a shareholder in the club, and they kind of have that feeling of having some ownership within that club. And there's various little schemes like that. And the way that Clive, our chairman, has communicated with the fans during lockdown and COVID-19, you know, like reassuring fans that we're putting them first. And whilst club, Clive was very assured in his open letters. He said, do you know what? You look after your own finances first. If you've lost your job, like many people might have done in lockdown, or they've been made redundant, or if they were self-employed and didn't get as much work as they were at before, like Clive basically just said, take the refund, take the money. Like that's the kind of, you know, the fan first kind of thought. Whereas a lot of owners would have just gone, do you know what? You're not having a refund. Like, we're going to keep it. Like, we're entitled to it, blah, 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 blah. But I just think it was fair for us, and it felt like the right thing to do. And he's a fantastic owner. And look, I know they're looking for future investment, and I guess every club is, but like I said earlier, who knows where this club's going to go? Hopefully the only way is up, but time will tell. But yeah, having a fantastic owner makes a football club, and the CEO as well. I mean, the staff workforce that we've got now is great compared to what it was 10 years ago, and that's not being disrespectful to those guys. It was just the position we were in as a club.
So, Zach, Jake actually made an interesting point there. He said that Clive Nates, the owner of Lincoln City, puts the fans first. And to be fair, I think you can say this as fans, but Marcus Evans hasn't really done that. Of course, Brett Johnson is about to take over at the club. How important is it for Brett Johnson to build that bridge between himself and the fans? Because you've supported Ipswich Town for many years, you've written about Ipswich Town, and of course, if I can say this, you've probably not experienced much relationship between, you know, like say the fans and the owner.
Yeah, I think, look, Jake hits the nail on the head. If you can get young people involved, you'll have fans for life. And I think that's the big worry at Ipswich. You know, we're a huge club, but you can't live off things that happened 40 years ago forever. There'll be fans who are now, you know, 22, 23, 24, who have not seen any success really in the grand scheme of things, like the odd playoff campaign here, but it's a bit of a far cry from where we were. Look, as you said, I wrote about Ipswich Town for a fair few years, and I was one of Evans' big defenders. I think he got a lot of flack when it perhaps wasn't deserved. You know, find me a bloke who's happy to invest £7 million just to keep us going every season. You know, he's put in more than £100 million to keep us going. Some people would argue that doesn't make him a good owner, and you know, that's another conversation for another day. I'm excited for the takeover. I think it's a good fresh start. I think it's a chance to build some bridges. I think it will get the town galvanised, you know, with that in conjunction with getting Paul Cook in. It could be a really exciting time. But a takeover doesn't necessarily mean that everything's going to be rosy and that everything will be fine and we're going to shoot up the leagues. And, you know, I think a change is probably due. I think Marcus Evans probably thinks that I can probably get rid of just losing money in this. I think Marcus Evans, when he bought the club in 2007, saw a club who were in a fairly good place and with a couple of £1 million invested would have gone in the Premier League. And I think Evans probably saw us being in the Premier League by 2010. And then obviously once you get to the Premier League, you're getting £100 million a season. If you come bottom, if you don't score a single goal, finish bottom or get a single point, you've got £100 million guaranteed. So that obviously hasn't happened. And the longer you don't get in, and then the more that you're fighting against clubs who have that parachute payment money, it just becomes more and more difficult every season. So I think the takeover will go through. I hope it goes through, but we need to, just be careful. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to start shooting up the leagues.
So ITFC Tweedy said the next generation won't choose Ipswich over Man City these days. That's why we need something to get them to choose us over anyone else. And Leigh, you can chime into this, but do you reckon that is what Marcus Evans got wrong? Because let's be honest, when he first came in, we were really excited. I was excited. I was at the game at Carrow Road when we were all like waving pound notes in the air. So first, where did it go wrong? Do you reckon it was his management of the fan side of things, if that makes any sense at all? And secondly, is this the big project that the new owner is going to be tasked with, to get the next generation on side with Ipswich Town?
So, well, basically, if you didn't know that, I did work at Ipswich Town for many years back in 2000 when it was the Wembley week. It was so. It was just unbelievable. Just working that first week for Ipswich Town, you're working in a retail shop. There's people buzzing. It was a fantastic atmosphere. Then when you go into Wembley, and of course, you see 30,000 Ipswich fans singing, waving their flags. It was brilliant, literally brilliant. And then we got promoted, got into the Premier League. My first game was actually the Manchester United game at Portman Road when Fabian Wilner scored. And the whole place just erupted. It was so good. It was really, really good. But then, as you say, the bad times came, the administrators come along, and of course, it kind of went into a bit of a sour point there. And then, of course, Marcus Evans, right now with the new takeover, give us a bit of a glimmer of hope. We're going to get back to the better times, should we say? And we're all for it, wasn't we? But then, over the years, it just seems that Marcus Evans just wants to put money in, and then that's it. He gave money to Roy Keane. He thought he was going to go up straight away, but that didn't happen. He sold probably one of our best youth players in Jordan Rhodes. He went for quite a less money. I think it was £500,000. I think he went for. So that point in time, then, and then the 2014-15 season when we got to that one-in-time playoff against Norwich City, unfortunately, we know what happened there. And then all of a sudden, we were just from that point to the following season. We got relegated. It was just all just over. So we needed a change, but. I've been talking to a few Ipswich Town fans recently who has season tickets at the club, and they just had choices. They just said either the club can have the money, or you can have a refund. But there's not really any interactive with the fans. Like Jake was saying with the chairman at Lincoln, it just seems to be another world, completely different world. But with this new takeover. Great, brilliant. I really want to see it. I'm all for it.
So I just want to thank Zach Ward and, of course, Jake Longworth for coming on to the show. We appreciate having you on, and you've been fantastic guests. And just to end the show, we, of course, have a competition. We won't keep you around too long, guys. The competition is to win a pair of iFollow tickets. 2 tickets are being given away, so we'd love you to get involved. And to get involved is fairly simple. Answer this question: how many games did Paul Lambert manage for Ipswich Town? You can put your answers in the comments, or if you're listening via iTunes, Spotify, or any other platforms, you can simply email us at wefollowthetownitfc@outlook.com. We Follow the Town, itfc@outlook.com. So yes, the competition will close on Sunday, so you have a little while to get involved. And of course, you can only enter once, which I think is a given. And yes, so we'd love you to get involved. And I want to thank you two for getting involved in the show. We've really enjoyed having you on. It's been a fantastic show. And I also want to thank those who've joined in and have actually tuned in and gotten involved. So thank you very much. And we'll see you on Sunday.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.